Young were you when you lost your parents, if I may ask?
I was 11 when my dad was killed, and my mom died of cancer when I was 17.
Hello and welcome back, all of my Courage, Confidence, and Connections podcast fans. I am Janice Debo, your host. My guest today is Patti Norris, and we have a history. Boy, do we have a history. Going back a few years, probably 10 or 12, something like that. Welcome, Patti.
Thanks, Janice. Glad to be here.
Oh, I'm excited you're coming on board to do this podcast. We're just going to have a good time. And for starters, why don't you give our audience a little bit about who you are? We'll get into your business stuff later for sure, but whatever you want to share right now, just about you.
Oh my goodness. Well,
A lot.
guess I would say I'm a community-minded rural resident with a lot of experience and a passion for helping people achieve things that they didn't think they could. Um,
Yeah, that sounds like a lot what I do. And the whole reason for my podcast is to get people's stories out there and help anybody who might be struggling or needing some advice. In that, on that note, I know you're local to me and you're in Prineville. So we'll be sharing this on all the Prineville outlets to make sure you get watched a lot. So a little
It's
bit,
a small town. There's not that many outlets.
well, that's true. Now, on a personal note, what is a little bit of your history? What was your growing up like, and where'd you grow up?
Oh, I grew up in Southern California,
Oh,
and what was it like? It was like, I guess, your typical um, suburban
okay,
upbringing.
okay.
Um, sort of next to the big city, but not particularly big city, but definitely in Southern California. Um, had great parents. Unfortunately, lost them very early.
Oh,
Um, so had to kind of figure things out on my own,
oh my,
which was an opportunity and a challenge along the way. Moved to Northern California to go to college and lived in Silicon Valley for a number of years, and
mm.
then decided to say goodbye to the rat race and moved to rural Central Oregon.
You definitely left the rat race behind down there. Now, early on in your childhood, how young were you when you lost your parents, if I may ask?
I was 11 when my dad was killed, and my mom died of cancer when I was 17.
Oh my goodness. Well, you had to summon a lot of courage to keep going forward. That's hard. And as a kid, we just don't see things the same way as adults do. It's a challenge for sure. How was school life for you, and what did you enjoy doing as a kid? I mean, were you outdoorsy or more of a bookworm?
I would say I was more of a bookworm. I had the opportunity, excuse me, to go to a very small school for elementary school, which was awesome. And we did lots of fun things, and it really developed my love of learning. Um, and then I went to, excuse me, bigger schools
Mhm.
for middle school and high school and had what I think a lot of people would call the, typical um, social anxiety
Mm.
filled school experiences there. Then I went off to college and just fell in love, and especially since um, my mom died halfway through my excuse me, my freshman year in college.
Mm.
And so college really became a family for me and my friends there. Um, and I loved college and I loved learning and had the opportunity to actually I didn't know it at the time, but to sort of start down the path that I've followed since. So I majored in economics
Hmm.
and had the opportunity to be a teaching assistant for the accounting classes, and really found that one of the things that I loved was that moment when you're working with a student and you're explaining something to them and you see the light flip on.
Right.
And not only do they then understand it, but they feel better about themselves
Yes.
because they felt like the content was too hard for them, or oh God, it's math and I hate math, or whatever. And when they get it, suddenly, you've built their confidence and they can go forward. And that something, that empowerment to go forward and do the things you want to do has really been a hallmark of my whole career since.
Well, I can speak to that. You're a whiz kid when it comes to numbers and math and things like that. You sure helped me with the QuickBooks. I hated it, and you were so good at it. So good.
Well, one of the things that I find, because both through my work with the Small Business Development Center, how you and I met,
Mhm.
and then also as a, a professor of business and computer science for Central Oregon Community College, which I'm still teaching QuickBooks for them.
Oh,
But one of the things that I found is, two things about accounting. One is a lot of people are just afraid of numbers, but certainly when you're doing accounting, the numbers are pretty manageable for most folks. It's add, subtract, multiply, and divide. We're
right.
not, designing missile trajectories or doing anything really complicated.
Yeah.
The other thing that I really try to communicate to my my students or the people I'm working with is that accounting is not a necessary evil. It's not something you just have to do because somebody told you, or have to do
Mhm.
because the IRS says you have to, but it's a tool for you to understand and manage your business and make your business or your nonprofit or your personal life more successful. And,
Okay.
if I can pitch people on that, then they're a little more accepting, a little less hesitant, and can get so much more out of the work that they're putting into, whether it's QuickBooks or doing it by hand or
Mhm.
however they're doing it.
Yeah, and it's frustrating for a lot of people, helping people, see how to do it or how to delegate. That's what I try to get people to do is if you hate it and you just can't adjust, delegate it to someone like yourself. And I know that I don't know if you still do that for people, but you used to. Do you still do that? Do you still do?
I do on occasion, although what I really try to focus on when I work with a new client and they come to me, and either they haven't set up their accounting at all, or they have, but they've been ignoring it, or it's gotten a little messy. I'll come in and help them clean it up, help them get it right. But then I want to teach them how to do it themselves
Yeah.
and how to get the value out of it. Because one of my concerns, delegating is awesome, but you can't delegate the responsibility for the finances of your organization. So you can hire a bookkeeper to do the data entry, but you still have to look at the reports
Hmm.
and make those decisions about it. There are too many stories of bookkeepers, most of whom are fabulous, wonderful, competent people, but there are enough stories of ones that are not those things and either end up embezzling from others because they're not paying attention, or are just doing things wrong
Hmm.
and end up creating the mess. So I'm happy for all of my clients to come in and clean it up and fix it and get everything working, and then to work with them to make sure that they can keep it up and understand it and manage it going forward, whether or not they're actually doing the data entry themselves.
Right. Yeah, and what kind of advice would you give people that are in this situation and they don't know how to find someone they can trust because they've heard horror stories or they've had a horror story? How would you suggest people actually find a trusted source for a bookkeeper, CPA, all that stuff?
Who, well, first thing is referrals.
Mhm.
If you know someone who has a bookkeeper or an accountant that they're happy with, get a referral. Um, Talking with CPAs
Mhm.
in your community can often refer you to bookkeepers who can do the work, even if some CPAs will do bookkeeping work. Um, that's less and less common. Have gotten so busy with tax work that a lot of them don't want to handle your day-to-day things. Excuse me, but they may have a referral.
Yeah.
If you don't have access to either of those, I would say to reach out to your local small business development center. Some of them can make referrals. They have very strict rules. They can't just refer you to Joe. They have to give you multiple referrals and things like that. But they can help train you to do a better job and give you the questions to ask
Hmm.
when you're interviewing a potential contractor.
Yeah. It's a scary thing to hand all that over to someone. It can be, I'm sure.
Sure.
Now, what brought you to Central Oregon to land in Prineville of all places?
Well, my husband and I were getting tired of, as I mentioned, the rat race of Silicon Valley. I had started my own consulting business and had noticed that my days were getting shorter and shorter because the traffic was so bad. First, I wouldn't schedule a meeting before 9 and not after 4, and then it was 10 and 3. And,
Oh
it
my.
was getting to be a problem. At the same time, we were planning to have a baby, and I saw a news story of parents camping out the night before at a preschool to get their kids registered for preschool. And I
Oh,
thought, okay, this is too much.
oh my God.
You know, I know some people camp out for Black Friday and
Yeah.
stuff. That's never been my thing, but I am not camping out for a preschool. So that was kind of the defining moment where it's like we have got to get out of there. Um, so we were very strategic. My husband is a private pilot, and aviation has been a big part of our lives. My parents were pilots and stuff, so
Really?
it's been important
Hmm.
for us. And so we decided we wanted to live somewhere in the West. And so I went to AAA and got a big Western States map,
Hmm.
and we had a directory of what are called residential air parks, which
Oh.
are communities where you can live with your plane. And I mapped, pointed them all out on the map, and we decided the ones in Arizona were too hot and the ones in Washington were too wet. And we ended up picking two here in Oregon as potentials.
Hmm.
And we came up over the 4th of July um, and visited one. And I thought, the one here in Central Oregon, and I thought, whoa, this is not what I thought Oregon was,
Oh yeah.
right? Like most people, I had this perspective that Oregon's all green and lush and wet and tall trees and everything. And that is not what the eastern side of the state is like at all.
Not at all.
So I wasn't sure I was gonna like it, but it was clear and blue, and we had flown up, and so that was great. The other place we were looking at was on the west side of the mountains, and so we were going to fly over and visit it, but it was fogged in and we couldn't fly over. And so we had to drive over, and the community over there was very much like the subdivisions that we lived in California. And that was not what I wanted.
Yeah.
So we ended up buying our property here. We live in a residential air park, have our house and our hangar, and live with our plane in a community of a bunch of really great aviation centered folks. So that's what brought us to Prineville.
Do you still have your plane?
We do.
Fun. Do you guys
I
get out?
actually have a plane and a half
How do
because
you?
my husband has been building a plane actually for 26 or 27 years now, since before my daughter was born. And so he works on that when he gets the chance. And then we have a plane that he can actually fly. For a while, he was working in Bend, which is about an hour's drive from where we are. And but he was working at the airport, and so
Oh,
he was able to fly to work.
oh
So
wow.
that was kind of cool. He got to
That's nice.
air commute, and he did the same when he was working in Redmond. Now he finally has a job here in Prineville, and so he can't fly to work anymore because it's too close. But at least he's working for a company that's actually building the world's first carbon fiber amphibious seaplane, twin engine,
Wow.
building that right here in Prineville.
Oh, really? I know there's a place in Redmond that builds some special plane, but that's amazing.
Yep. There's
Yeah.
actually, this wasn't necessarily true when we first moved here, but there's actually quite an aviation centered business here in Central Oregon. Not all of it in Prineville, although we have um, the, excuse me, Carbon Seaplanes, the company that my husband works for. We also have another company here that's working on building a flying car, all here in Prineville.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
As long as it requires a driver or a pilot and isn't one of those,
Oh, like a Waymo?
I'm not
Now
gonna
that would
be,
actually be kind of cool, but no, it does require a human.
yeah, I don't think I want to be flown around or driven around in anything that doesn't have a human behind the wheel of it. So that's just me. There are people who will do it, but I mean, as sensitive as Siri is, and you've probably experienced this, I could be talking to my cat and she'll just mouth off. Like I wasn't talking to you. And, but anyway,
That's true. But back in the day, we had the Jetsons and we were promised flying cars. Now it's a lot later and we're still waiting.
still waiting. I know I watched the Jetsons too. There's a lot in there, Patty, that has happened. It's pretty amazing the foresight of whoever developed that cartoon.
Yep.
That was funny. So where do you fly today? I mean, do you go out and fly around? You guys just go for fun trips?
Um, I don't fly much. It just kind of doesn't come up. My husband flies to Prineville at least once a month to the Prineville airport to have donuts, and every week he flies to Madras for donuts.
Oh my.
And every once in a while he takes off with the guys and they go off on a trip. Most recently, we just had an air show in Madras last weekend, and so he flew up and spent the day up there watching all the other pilots.
Oh, so much fun. That is great. Yeah, have you ever been to the Air Museum in Seattle?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a fun thing to see. I'm fascinated by flight, but then I'm from North Carolina where the Wright brothers are from. Now
Yep.
that
I've been to Kitty Hawk too.
yay for you. Good. Good. Yes, I've been there. My brother used to live really close and I've definitely seen the museum a couple times. It's flight is absolutely fascinating. And I love birds and I understand that's how they watched birds and figured it out. It's
Yeah, although if you look at that Wright Flyer, it doesn't look anything like a bird.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. But the brilliant minds that came up with that, wow, that is amazing. Now, you said
Yeah.
you have a daughter, and I think last time we spoke, is she still in college?
She has recently graduated from college and is embarking on her career, and
Is she following in your footsteps or in your husband's?
neither.
Sir?
You know, she's completely not interested in business. She thought for a while when she was in school that she might want to be an engineer and a pilot, but she has a real heart for children and
Oh,
their mental health. So
good.
she actually got her degree in, excuse me, in psychology and had a minor in disability services. And she's looking for opportunities to work, especially with elementary age children, and to give them the support they need to grow up happy and healthy and safe in their environments.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. We can't have too many people in that field. That is really great. Oh, I had a question. Where did that question go?
That
Was
never happens to me.
no, no, I'm sure. Oh my goodness, it was a good one too. Okay. I'm sure it will come back. So
I'm sure it will.
let's talk a little bit about where courage and confidence has come into play in your life. I know about the connections because you're a connector like myself. Oh, I know what I was going to ask. I knew it would come back. It starts with a C. Community. I want to talk to you and have you speak on your involvement in the community because you're in the forefront of a lot of things. So let's tell our audience what you do and how you help the community besides just teaching us how to do math.
Oh my goodness. Well, let's see. I served for 14 years on my local school board and have recently moved on from that. I founded the Crook County Kids Club, which is our local after school program. I serve on the board, and I still serve on the board of that. I also serve on the board, excuse me, of the Crook County Foundation,
Oh,
which is a 25, yeah, 26, 27-year-old organization here that supports the community through leadership and scholarships and the arts, and supporting other groups doing what we call community enrichment.
mhm.
And I lead the leadership committee for the foundation. And I'm very excited because we're just about to relaunch our Leadership for County program, which will be monthly sessions for 9 months on how to, how the county works, how the city works, all about the history and the culture and how people can get involved. If they want to run for office or if they want to get on a board or be appointed to a commission or a committee, all ways to encourage people to get further involved in the community.
Yeah. I was a graduate of, or I am a graduate of Leadership Redmond, where I am.
Mhm.
I'm a real proponent and a fan of that program because I learned so much. It was amazing to see behind the workings of like the jail, the police, the prison. That was not my favorite one, I have to tell you. When those doors slammed behind us, it's like we all turned around and went, oh, and then, oh, it's a shock if nobody's ever been to it. Jail wasn't so bad in Redmond. It's that prison in Bend that was a little scary. But
Mm.
but I gotta say, and then the hospital, the inner workings of the hospital. So these things are really important to understand. It was a real catalyst for me to move forward in business, and I learned so much about it. And that's how I even got on the board of directors of the economic development. It's it's a real education. So kudos. I'm glad Prineville's or Crook County is putting that back in place.
Yep. We've had it for most of the last 25 years, but took a break with COVID and whatnot. So now we're getting that relaunched. I'm also leading a visioning project
Mhm.
with our community, excuse me, our community leaders to, survey and get some input from the folks around here on what they'd like to see next.
Wow, you don't have time for any fun activities. Or
This
do
is
you?
fun activities.
Yeah, I was gonna say for you that's fun. You don't go fly the plane and any of that stuff. Um, but you know what you could do is you could gather some of your volunteers and have your husband take them up for a ride.
We do that sometimes.
Oh, good, good. That would be fun. I remember as a kid, a friend of my father's had I don't know, I think it was a four-seater. I don't remember what it was, but I got to sit in the co-pilot seat. And as a kid, that was so much fun. He did some tricks. I think we even went upside down. He was, it was fun. I loved it. And then as an adult, many years ago, I worked for a big company that one of the clients had a Cessna and they got a bunch of us on there somehow. And I also got to be co-pilot on that and land the plane. And I survived, so did everybody else.
Hey, good job.
But I'm
A
fascinated.
successful landing is anyone you can walk away from.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In some cases swim, I guess, but hopefully you don't have to land in the water. And
Yep. So he does do that. He's part of a local organization, well, local chapter of a national organization called the Experimental Aircraft Association.
oh,
And multiple times a year, they have what they call Young Eagle flights, where a number of pilots come together and kids from the area are invited to go up and learn what it's like to fly around in a little airplane.
does he have a two-seater or a four-seater? Or what's his
He has a four-seater.
four-seater? Very good. Yeah, it's amazing. And I think looking back, had I known more or been encouraged, I probably would have enjoyed being a pilot and doing that. It
There's still time.
there's still aren't you kind? That would be fun. And I know there are some good programs even locally to get your pilot's license. So
Yep.
so I'll put that one in the hopper. I don't do bucket lists, so we'll just put that in the hopper. Um, I don't bucket lists bother me. It's like I'm sure I'll kick it at some point, but I don't want to. Yeah. So anyway, in all that community involvement and work you do, let's talk about the work aspect because I know the volunteer stuff is just that volunteer, but I want to have you tell our audience more about what you do professionally. We've kind of got the taste of how you got there. So let's talk about what you do and the name of your business and stuff.
Sure. Well, my business is called, excuse me, ProsperPath Advisors. And I work with primarily smaller businesses and nonprofits to help them turn wouldn't it be nice into look what we did.
Yeah.
Um, and primarily around managing their finances, but also strategic planning and what I call action planning.
Mhm.
Like a lot of people, I've done strategic plans forever. But if you get to the point where you write a plan and you put it on the shelf, it's a wasted time,
Mhm.
right? So, what I like to do with my clients is take that strategic perspective,
Mhm.
but then instead of stopping there, we actually take it to, okay, so this is what we want to accomplish. What do we actually need to do to make that happen? Who's going to do it? By when? How are we going to stay on top of this? And how are we going to measure our success? And so I do that with folks, depending on the state of their financials.
Mhm.
Often I'll come in and I'll clean things up, help them understand how it works, train them on how to maintain it or how to manage it. If it's a situation where there's a board of directors, I'll come in and train their boards on how to read the financials. If you've ever been part of a nonprofit or most boards, you often go to the meeting and you get to the part where the treasurer presents the report and people's eyes glaze over and they just kind of say, yeah, okay,
Okay.
yeah, whatever, approved. But they're not really paying attention to what's going on.
Mm.
And that just takes a little training to understand what to look for, what to do about it, what are the questions to ask of the treasurer or the bookkeeper, and how to get value from what they're doing.
Yeah. So,
So
okay.
I was just going to say, along with that, I provide, depending on what clients need, a service as what we call a fractional CFO.
Oh,
So your chief financial officer, but not full-time on staff. But as a resource, usually I'll set up weekly or bi-weekly meetings and we'll just have a call and we'll talk about whatever financial issues or business issues an organization is having and kind of be their sounding board and partner and advisor and connector
mhm.
to additional resources, kind of whatever they need. And hopefully do some empowerment there and some confidence building and help them be more successful.
Excellent. And you work with nonprofits and for-profits, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Good information. And we're going to wrap it up here, Patty. So, any final words of wisdom or advice, or even a funny story, anything you want to say as we
Oh,
come to a
you
close?
should have prepared me for that.
That's all right.
Um, I guess I would say final words of advice are um, whatever you're trying to do, focus on what you really want to accomplish. I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek, who most folks have heard of, starting with why. And I think that's incredibly valuable. Um, but I find a lot of people get caught up in the how and need to step back to the what. So the what is it that you really want to accomplish? In the case of a nonprofit, for example, usually the answer to that is we want to be sustainable. We want to have sufficient funding to accomplish what we need. And we want our resources, our staff or our volunteers or our board to be engaged in moving this forward. What can happen is they get really focused on we need more grants
Yeah.
or we need more donations. And those are how questions.
Oh,
And when you're focused on we need more donations, you're getting caught up in the details there when you need to step back and say, we need sustainable funding.
mhm.
And that's one of the things that I really try to do with them is, let's let's find out what it is you want to accomplish because there are often many ways to achieve sustainable funding that
Mhm.
isn't just getting more out of your donors, right? Maybe there are fee solutions, maybe there are investments. If you're sitting on a bunch of cash, get it out of that, a bank account that's paying 0.25% and into an account that's paying 4 or 5%.
Yeah.
Um, look at diversified funding streams. That's a real important piece for sustainability.
Mhm.
As a lot of, especially nonprofits have found recently with the cutbacks in federal funding, here they thought they had an income stream and suddenly it's gone. Got to have that diversification. So, I would say focus on, figure out your why because that's what keeps you passionate about it, and then focus on the what you really want to accomplish, and talk to me about all the different hows.
That is fantastic. And I've worked in, with, and for nonprofits, especially. And in those questions are vital. People flounder. I was in one organization to wrap it up that we put together a big fundraiser called the Festival of Trees, if you're familiar with that here.
Mhm.
But this was in North Carolina, and I didn't really have full board support. I mean, I worked so hard and so long, and it didn't make a profit, but that couldn't convince them that it wouldn't the first year anyway. We really tried, and it does take time. People need to understand it takes time as well. But this great words of wisdom, Patty. All of your information, we'll have your um, information on how to get people can get in touch with you at the end of the broadcast so they can look you up, reach out and find out more and how you can be of assistance to them or some help in some way. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I appreciate you joining me on this podcast and we learned a lot. This was an educational podcast, guys. With the fun.
Certainly more than you ever wanted to know about me.
Well, no, it's good. It's good. Makes you who you are. And you started out in that field as a kid. You love learning, and here you go. And now you're helping others. So,
Yep.
but thank
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for having me.
you are welcome, and we will see you next time, fans, for Courage, Confidence, and Connections.